Hi, Alessandro. Yes, I can.
Excellent. So we start in 4 minutes 50. Remember that at 23 I will need a cue point for the fresher start.
Okay, can you just confirm, because I can't call up the running order on my phone, when is race 2?
What time is the green flag, you mean?
What time are we back on air for race 2? Because obviously I'll...
We are back on air on race 2 at 58:20. 3:58:20.
3:58:20.
The running order, maybe it will be a bit later, I don't know.
So about 4 o'clock. Okay, so after I've done the cue point, when I wrap up from this race, it'll be join us again at around 4 o'clock, which is in an hour's time or something.
Correct.
Okay.
Obviously this will be after the X cue for the end of the delayed progress.
Yes, absolutely. Just wondering how my microphone is sounding?
To me, very well.
Okay, thanks. One, two, three. That's gone quiet. It needs to up. Hello, one, two, three. No, that's quiet. It needs to go up again. One, two, three. Up again. One, two, three. That's fine. Thank you.
We start in 20.
Standing by. And hello to everybody around the world watching on YouTube. We go live in 15 seconds.
No opening title from the beginning of this, so we start in 5. You are on air.
Hello and welcome to Zhejiang in China for our coverage of the two TCR International Series races at this brand new racetrack, which is around 3 hours or so away from Shanghai, to give you some idea of the geography. This is Mark James in the commentary box. We've had testing, we've had free practice, we've had qualifying. It all now comes down to these two races. Rounds 17 and 18 of the 2017 TCR International Series. The Drivers' Championship is boiling down nicely. We have all sorts of side stories to tell you about, I suspect, in these two races this afternoon. And there's also the small matter of two brand new cars to the championship, which really impressed quite a lot of people yesterday. We knew that the Hyundai i30N TCR would be competitive. There is a message for our good friend Casey Tan, who's hopefully watching at home in Malaysia. Tan, we miss you, and we're thinking of you here in China. Tan, part of our team from the very early days of TCR International. You see the clock there on the left-hand side of the gantry ticking down. 19 laps, the counter on the right-hand side will be ticking down as the race goes on. We are only a few minutes away from the green flag lap of this first TCR International Series race, and that is the man on pole position. Great Britain's Rob Huff, former world champion, driving for the final time this year in TCR International, and there to do as much as he can from the man alongside him on the grid, Jean-Carl Venet in the other Leopard Racing Volkswagen Golf. Row 2 of the grid, Pepe Oriola and Gianni Morbidelli. Dan Lloyd and Roberto Colciago rode 3. Attila Tashi, championship leader coming into China, lost that lead after qualifying. Alongside Tashi on the grid is James Nash. David Kajaya and Frederic Vervish, that'll be the front row of the grid for race 2 later on. Then it's Denis Dupont and Aurelien Panis on row 6. Gabriele Tarquini and his teammate Alain Menu in the two brand new Hyundais alongside each other. Stefano Camini disappointed to miss out on Q2 yesterday. Dusan Borkovic alongside him. And then towards the back of the grids, Mato Homola right at the back, having had an engine change on the Opel Astra, missing out on qualifying altogether. A bitterly disappointed Mato Homola. Flashes of brilliance from the car and from Mato during the year, but that elusive first victory not going to happen, it would seem, here in China. There is Jean-Carl Venet. I mentioned that Attila Tashi was leading the championship arriving here in China. The 4 points for second place mean that, second on the grid I should say, mean that Jean-Carl Venet has retaken the lead of the Drivers' Series by 2 points now from Tashi. We have 21 cars entered for these two races. All 21 cars will take the start. With Homola, there he is, car 70, the DG Sport Competition Opel Astra, starting from right at the back of the grid. And the other penalty I need to tell you about, Zhang Tengyi in the Triple Z Racing, the locally entered Audi RS3 LMS, withdrawn from Parc Fermé under reasonable conditions because the car was being used for a TCR China race immediately after qualifying, the team having no option but to ask for Parc Fermé to be neutralised for the car, and so the inevitable penalty drops him to the back of the grid. Nothing underhand, nothing untowards, it's just that's the way things work. So, confirmation then that Jean-Carl Venet leads the TCR International Series drivers' points table by 2 points from Attila Tashi. Stefano Camini, 16 points down on Venet. Colciago a further 20 down on Camini, and then there's a bit of a gap. Really, truly, it's now a four-way fight, although Pepe Oriola, I suspect, will have something to say about that. He knows that he's still not mathematically out of contention just yet. Who knows, a win and perhaps a podium here in Zhejiang would transform his championship hopes in 2017. Goodness knows he and the team need a turn of good luck. Will it happen here in China? Who knows? There is the Hyundai, the i30N TCR, making its International Series debut. Alain Menu and Gabriele Tarquini, two of the most experienced men in touring car racing, entrusted with the development and the initial races of the cars. Quickest in qualifying one yesterday. It was Menu from Gabriele Tarquini, but the car not homologated fully, and so they weren't able to go through to Q2. Zhejiang in China is the venue for rounds 17 and 18 of the 2017 TCR International Series. This brand new circuit, 3.2 kilometers in length, and it's an impressive, twisty little track that's caught out quite a few people so far this weekend, not just in the TCR International Series, but in the support categories as well. Very different, almost two halves of the circuit. You see there the very twisty elevation changes of the first half, and then the much flatter, much more open second half of the track, which brings the cars down into the start-finish straight. The hottest day of the weekend so far for race day. Conditions inside the cars will be fairly unpleasant, I have to say. 29 degrees of air temperature. There is a haze, possibly a touch of smog in the air here in industrial China, but the air temperature is noticeably higher as we came to the track today. Confirmation then that it's Leopard Racing 1 and 2 on the grid. Rob Huff from Jean-Carl Venet, and what can Huff do to help his teammate in this first race? Pepe Oriola and Gianni Morbidelli, row 2. Dan Lloyd, Roberto Colciago, row 3. Attila Tashi, alongside Tashi on the grid is James Nash. Row 5, David Kajaya, Frederic Verviche. Denis Dupont and Aurélien Panis. Then it's the two Hyundais that we've been talking about for much of this weekend. Alain Menu just pipping Gabriele Tarquini to be quickest in Q1. The cars not able to go through to Q2 because of their their provisional homologation. They're not scoring points, remember, this weekend. The car very much here as part of its development. There's only so much that you can do by developing the car on its own. It really does need to be developed in competition, and that's why the Hyundai Motorsport guys and also the BRC Racing team from Italy, who run the Hyundais, are competing in the final two events of this year's TCR International Series here in China, and the final round in Dubai. So, green flag lap underway. The two Leopard Racing Volkswagen Golf GTI TCR cars lead the field away. Rob Huff making his final appearance of the year in the TCR International Series. Here to do one job and one job only, and that's to help his teammate Jean-Carl Venet get the maximum number of points in his bid to become Drivers' Champion. And Rob has said that's what he plans to do. Although if Jean-Carl is under threat, then Rob is free to race, free to win this event. And from what we've seen so far this weekend, the track suits both the Volkswagens and the Seat Leons, not so much the Honda Civics and certainly not the Audis, although it is an Audi RS3 LMS of the Come To You Racing team, driven by Frederic Verviche, that'll start race 2 from pole. But the double TCR International champion Stefano Camini bitterly disappointed yesterday to miss out on going through to Q2. Bit of a disastrous weekend for Camini, and so he starts way back from row 8 of the grid in both races. You can see the idea there of the elevation changes. This is the point at which the circuit changes in character from the twisty section that runs along the cliff face, the hill behind the track. This is turn 13, the long left-hand open hairpin that brings the cars back down onto the much more open, much flatter second half of the circuit. The right-hander at turn 14, left at 15, and then the drag down to the square left-hander at turn 16, which leads on to the start-finish straight. 21 cars line up on the grid for this 17th round of the TCR International Series. And at the back of the grid will be the Opel Astra, the DG Sport Competition Opel Astra of Mato Homola, having to have an engine change yesterday and so relegated to the back of the grid. Now the Hyundais not here to score championship points, but here very much on a sales mission, very much to say, look at us, the 11th brand to develop a TCR car. All about customer racing, TCR, remember. So they're determined to put on a good show this weekend. What can they do? We've seen so far that all the evidence points to this track being extremely difficult for overtaking. But remember, in their defense, you have two of the most experienced drivers in touring car history. Gabriele Tarquini, 55 years old, 54 years of age, his teammate Alain Menu alongside him. Not the oldest men on the grid, I'll come to that in a moment, but all those decades of experience, you have to say that you wouldn't bet against those Hyundais carving their way through the field, even though the track suggests that will be unlikely. Moments away then from the start. Watch the two turquoise, if that's the right colour to describe them, Volkswagens on the front row of the grid. We're waiting for the lights to go on. All on. A delay. Oh, that was tantalising. Lights go off. A good start from Huff. A better start from Pepe Oriola. And through goes Jean-Carl Venet. There's contact immediately. Denis Dupont into the wall. And through goes Pepe Oriola, making the best start of all. It's exactly what he wanted. Oriola leads as a big slide from Attila Tashi coming through turn 2. Tashi rejoins, unscathed, just ahead of the Hyundais. Oriola ahead of Venet, ahead of Morbidelli. Then it's Vavish, I think, who's up into 4th. Indeed, Pepe Oriola, having had, by his standards, a disastrous season. All the bad luck, it would seem, pointing at the Lukoil Craft Bamboo team, and particularly Pepe Oriola. Thankfully for the team, all 3 of their cars made it through to Q2 yesterday. There is Rob Huff, pole sitter, did, I suspect, what he needed to do. Not quite working completely to plan, in that Pepe Oriola got ahead of Jean-Carl Venet. There is Stefano Camini. So indeed, it's the silver-roofed car of number 6, Frederic Vavish, who's in 4th position. Already one of the Hyundais well up, ahead of Roberto Colciago. And the Hyundai already attacking the 2 Lukoil Craft Bamboo cars. And it's number 30, Gabriele Tarquini, side by side, I think, with James Nash, that was. So to complete the first of this 19-lap race, Pepe Oriola comes around turn 16. Indeed, already Gabriele Tarquini has passed both Dan Lloyd and James Nash. So then at the end of lap 1, Pepe Oriola from Jean-Carl Venet, Gianni Morbidelli 3rd, 4th is Frederic Vavish, 5th is Rob Huff, 6th is already Gabriele Tarquini, Nash 7th, Lloyd 8th, Colciago 9th, and David Kajaya in the Alfa Romeo rounds off the top 10, and that was Denis Dupont off and parked up. Dupont making his TCR International Series debut. Through turn 6, the long right-hander, there goes Oriola. Venet in close attention, then a little gap back to Gianni Morbidelli, Frederic Vavish, then Rob Huff. Colciago improves. So Tarquini now 6th behind Huff. And Huff and Vavish battling for 4th place. Huff all over the back of the Audi, and already the Hyundai i30N TCR of Gabriele Tarquini is battling with Huff. Alongside goes Gabriele. Vavish blocks. And through goes Tarquini, having picked his line beautifully past Huff. He now passes the Audi. So sensationally, from 14th on the grid, Gabriele Tarquini now up into 4th place, ahead of Frederic Vavish and Rob Huff. So we're starting lap 3. Pepe Oriola still leads from a determined Jean-Carl Venet, looking to pick his way past. Gianni Morbidelli in 3rd. Gabriele Tarquini up into 4th. Then it's Vavish, then Huff, then Nash, then Menu. So both the Hyundais are now in the top 10. Dusan Borkovic is in the pits in the 62 Alfa Romeo. And we're looking at the leaders. But will this race turn out to be a benefit for the Hyundais? There is the first of them, already hunting down Gianni Morbidelli. Gabriele Tarquini. There is the other car, Alain Menu, going through the right-hander. Effectively, remember, those 2 Hyundais are invisible in the points table. So the drivers should be well aware that if it's a Hyundai behind them, it doesn't matter if it overtakes. That's Dan Lloyd's car, the number 17 Seat of Lukoil Craft Bamboo in the pits, receiving attention. So already we've lost Denis Dupont in the Seat, Dusan Borkovic still in the pits, Dan Lloyd in the pits. And Tarquini closing the gap on Morbidelli, two of the most experienced men in this race. And Venet closing the gap also on Pepe Oriola. Oriola, fifth in the Drivers' Championship points, desperately needs the win. Also, I suspect a podium finish as Tarquini goes up alongside Morbidelli, takes third place. Brilliant move, yet another really well-timed move from Tarquini, powering past Morbidelli. Now this is just what Hyundai needed. A very clear signal to say this car is potentially what you need, folks. So there would be no surprise if Tarquini powers his way past the two guys ahead of him, who would be well advised to let him go. Not a problem in the points. He's not taking points away from either Pepe Oriola or Jean-Carl Venet. But there's the small matter of Gianni Morbidelli in close attention with Rob Huff behind him. Pepe Oriola, though, still leads from Jean-Carl Venet. We're on lap 4 of 19. Through turn 12, down to the left-hander at turn 13. The gap 0.3 of a second between these two. And you saw there Frederic Vervisch in the background very briefly, with Alain Menu in close attention. So down to the left-hander at turn 16. Venet just pops his nose out. No, indeed, he tucks in behind as a little puff of smoke from Gabriele Tarquini. These three running together. Tarquini takes a look up the left-hand side, but indeed tucks in. So around turn 1 for the 5th time. So now it's Oriola from Jean-Carl Venet, from Gabriele Tarquini. In the background, Rob Huff has passed Gianni Morbidelli. So Huff now in 4th place ahead of Morbidelli. Alain Menu up to 6th, having overtaken Frederic Vervisch in the Audi. And Venet will be concentrating on Oriola and not particularly bothered about Gabriele Tarquini behind him. Look at this start from Oriola, beautifully timed, manages to carve his way through the two. That's the moment that Denis Dupont was fired into the wall off the start line. And I didn't see who nudged Dupont. And that's Attila Tashi getting it wrong coming out of turn 2. And that's the moment that Dupont parks up with the damage to the car. Too badly damaged to continue. So Oriola then still leads from Jean-Carl Venet. But look at Tarquini right up behind the pair. Millimetres, it seems, between Jean-Carl Venet and Pepe Oriola. Once again, Tarquini dives to the left, powers alongside Jean-Carl Venet. Squirreling under braking, Tarquini moves up from 3rd to 2nd. Another beautifully timed move from the veteran Italian. And Venet very sensibly making room for Tarquini to come through. Huff now coming up behind his teammate. And car 33 is Alain Menu. A drive-through penalty. Was that for contact with Denis Dupont? I suspect it was. Looking at the grid, Menu was behind Dupont. So that would make sense. So mixed fortunes for the brand new Hyundai i30N TCR. Gabriele Tarquini having made it up from 14th on the grid to 2nd. But it's a drive-through penalty for Alain Menu in the other Hyundai. And we're not even at half distance in this 19-lap race. This is the moment. Tarquini dives to the left on the brakes, and very sensibly Jean-Carl Venet says, through you go, you're not a problem to me. My target is Pepe Oriola. And Huff up behind his teammate. A perfect position to act as rear gunner, keeping Gianni Morbidelli and the rest away from Jean-Carl Venet. As Tarquini now focuses his attentions to Pepe Oriola, our race leader, coming up to the end of lap 6. And that was somebody in the background diving into the pits, I think. We'll see that in a moment. Pepe Oriola then out defending from Gabriele Tarquini. Vervish up to 6th. And it was Alain Menu who was diving in for his drive-through. So already taking that drive-through penalty. Alain Menu in the second of the Hyundais. So race order then. On lap 7, Pepe Oriola leads here in China from Gabriele Tarquini. Jean-Carl Venet 3rd, Rob Huff 4th, Gianni Morbidelli, there he is in the back of your shot, now 5th, ahead of Frederick Vervish, James Nash, Roberto Colciago, David Kajaya, and Menu having dropped down the order. Attila Tashi, who was leading the Drivers' Series, remember, coming here to China outside the points at the moment, 12th behind Aurelien Panis. There is Andrea Adamo on the right of your screen, the customer racing boss at Hyundai Motorsport. Keeping his fingers crossed that Gabriele Tarquini can move up one more place. This would be a dream debut for the car. And what a man to give the team. I don't want to jinx it, the commentator's curse. Let's not go any further there, shall we? But Gabriele Tarquini moving on as Mato Homola runs wide in the troubled Opel Astra. It's been yet another weekend to forget for the DG Sport Competition team. So that move on Oriola from Tarquini not happening on this lap. Through turn 1, the right-hander at turn 2. And this is a nudge from the 81 Audi. That's the Triple Z of Zhang Zhendong, one of the 2 locally run Triple Z Audis. Whether the race director will decide to take any action remains to be seen. Oriola, dare I say it, pulling away slightly from Gabriele Tarquini. The advantage at the moment, a whisker over 0.6 of a second. And Alain Menu's drive-through penalty has dropped him outside the top 10, elevating Aurelien Panis to 10th, our race 2 winner in Buriram 5 weeks ago. Attila Tashi tantalizingly 1 place away from the points, so Tashi currently 11th. Kamini also in that scrap for the driver's title in 12th. And the other man who needs the points, Roberto Colciago, who missed the 2 races in Buriram because of injury. Colciago is 8th. But our current series leader, after qualifying, Jean-Carl Venet, currently 3rd, but 2nd in the points because of the Hyundai being ineligible to score. Oriola then, from Tarquini, from Venet, from Huff. Surely it's only a matter of time before Tarquini makes his move. And this is Menu passing Mato Homola cleanly, it would seem. Up to turn 7, the right-hander. Through goes Oriola, through goes Tarquini. Still 0.6 between the pair. Then it's Venet, then Huff, then Morbidelli, Vervish, Nash, Colciago, Kajaya in the Alpha, then Panis rounding off the top 10. Tashi still 11th, Kamini still 12th. Alain Menu now up to 14th after taking his penalty. Mato Homola 15th. The other West Coast Racing Volkswagen in the hands of Rafael Galliana this weekend. I mentioned our more experienced drivers earlier in the race. Galliana at 57, the oldest man on track here in Zhejiang. Tarquini takes a little look. He's right up behind Oriola. Surely this is where it's going to happen as they come down the start-finish straight to start lap 10 of 19. Venet flashing his lights in frustration. Just has a little look up the inside, not close enough. So the gap between first and second having come down to just under 0.4 of a second. Venet, though, not giving up, tucked in behind the Hyundai. And this is once again Menu carving his way through the field. Having passed Zhang Zhedong, Menu is now up into 13th place. So potentially 2 top 10 finishes on the cards for the Hyundai i30 on its TCR International debut. The question that remains to be resolved is, will it be second or first for Gabriele Tarquini? And what was I saying about it being difficult to overtake here at Zhejiang? There is Colchargo. David Kajaya in close attendance, as is Aurelien Panis in 10th place. And you can see the frustration, the lights flashing on both the Hyundai and the Volkswagen. Oriola having none of it. Tarquini, this is the move, this is the moment. Tarquini dives up the inside of Pepe Oriola. The lead changes hands going into turn 1, and that's the moment we were waiting for. Gabriele Tarquini makes the move. He now leads the TCR International Series race on the car's debut. Pepe Oriola is second, and now already under attack from Jean-Carl Venet. Venet tucked up behind Oriola. Let the Hyundai go, Pepe. It doesn't matter. It's not going to take any points away from you. Venet, though, has other ideas. Tucked in just behind the Seat, Jean-Carl Venet determined to take maximum points here in race 1 in Zhejiang. And Rob Huff, it would seem, in the perfect position to help his teammate. Let's just look at that again, as Gabriele Tarquini in the same place, his favourite overtaking spot on the circuit, it would seem, coming down the start-finish straight, last of the late breakers, and just tucks in as Jean-Carl Venet just takes a look at the inside of Pepe Oriola. Not this time. That's the order towards the bottom end of the top 10. James Nash 7th, Colchargo 8th, David Kajaya 9th, and Aurelien Panis 10th. As Jean-Carl Venet goes up the inside of Pepe Oriola, the two-touch, and Oriola goes onto the grass. A nudge from Jean-Carl Venet. Will that attract the attention of the stewards? And indeed, Rob Huff goes through as well. Gianni Morbidelli now attacking Pepe Oriola. It's all happening at the start of this lap. The two-touch. Oriola goes sideways again. We need to see that again coming through turns 1 and 2. And that was bump, nudge, bump, thump, I think, from Jean-Carl Venet. Contact with Pepe Oriola, which first set him way wide coming through the final turn. And then Gianni Morbidelli getting up alongside, as there, I think, is the end of Matteo Homola's race with a front puncture. We certainly need to see that sequence again. And will there be any action? Nothing on my timing screen at the moment. The only incident under review is the contact between Zhang Zhendong and Matteo Homola. So, Gabriele Tarquini, what a change in just a lap. Tarquini pulling away in the lead. Jean-Carl Venet is where he needs to be in second place. He has his rear gunner, Rob Huff, behind him. Gianni Morbidelli behind Huff. And Pepe Oriola must be wondering as they pick their way past the ailing Opel Astra of Matteo Homola. And indeed, on my timing screen, contact between cars 2, 74 and 10 and 74. So this incident between Jean-Carl Venet and Pepe Oriola is under review, as is the incident that's just coming up, this one, where Gianni Morbidelli moves across. Oriola moves aggressively to defend the position. There's contact between the two, and Oriola is the man who loses out. Some anxious faces in Leopard, but their man is okay. He's now got Rob Huff looking after whatever happens behind him. and I suspect that Lukoil Craft Bamboo will have something to say. Zhang Zhendong gets a 10-second time penalty for the contact with Homola. But will anything be said about the incidents that we've just seen? On lap 13 of 19, Gabriele Tarquini driving a Hyundai i30N TCR on the car's debut, leading and pulling away from championship leader Jean-Carl Venet second, Rob Huff third, fourth is Gianni Morbidelli, fifth is Pepe Oriola, who must be absolutely livid. Colchago then, ahead of Kajaya, Nash, Panis. So Nash has dropped down to 9th now behind Kajaya. There is Panis in 10th place. Vervish there in the Audi. Then Colchago, then Kajaya. There's Nash. There's Panis, there's Tashi. And behind Tashi with his lights ablaze, you saw Alain Menu, determined to get into the top 10 for Hyundai. As outside my window, the leaders go through turn 6. There they are. Tarquini still leads from Jean-Carl Venet. Rob Huff in 3rd. Morbidelli 4th. 5th is Pepe Oriola. 6th is Frederic Vervish. Colchago is 7th. Kajaya is now 8th ahead of James Nash. And Aurelien Panis is 10th. Attila Tashi, of course, will get a point because of the non-point scoring situation with Tarquini. So even though he's 11th, Attila Tashi will get a point from this race. And so for him, carrying 30 kilos of success ballast, he'll be looking to salvage whatever he can from the second race here at Zhejiang. There's confirmation of the 10-second penalty for Zhang Zhendong in the Audi. He'll get a penalty after the race, but still nothing on my screen about those two incidents involving Oriola. Nash, Panis, Tashi, Menu. Really a frustrating 13th. Galliana 15th. Mato Homola out, Dan Lloyd out, Dusan Borkovic out, and Denis Dupont out. In only the first few meters of the race, Dupont having to pull up with the damage to his Seat. Hopefully the Come To You team can repair the Seats, the RACB Belgian young driver prize, I guess, here in TCR International for the first time. Hopefully we'll see Dupont out in race 2. But that is our championship leader, Jean-Carl Venet, with teammate Rob Huff behind, as Gabriele Tarquini avoids that debris on the track, tyre debris it looks like. Gaps now starting to open up. There is Morbidelli in the back of his shot in 4th. A distant 5th is now Pepe Oriola. So as well as the contact, had he ruined his tyres by defending too aggressively as Dusan Borkovic has gone, he'd been in the pits earlier, went back out, and has come back in. So 18 of our 21 starters still running. Mato Homola is back out. Excuse me, Mato Homola's in the pits. Looking at my timing screen. And confirmation from my timing screen that the incidents involving Pepe Oriola will receive no further action. So expect fireworks afterwards from the Spaniard and from the team, but both the incidents involving Pepe Oriola. So Jean Calvinet followed moments later by Gianni Morbidelli. No further action. So there's our leading quartet. Gabriele Tarquini, Jean Calvinet, Rob Huff, and in fourth place Gianni Morbidelli. There's your confirmation as Dusan Borkovic heads back out. A frustrated Dusan, who said that he didn't think the circuit suited the Alpha before the weekend. His teammate David Kajaya is currently 8th. And Kajaya, remember, starting on the front row of the grid for race 2 alongside Frederic Vervisch. So potentially could be salvaging a useful finish for one of the Alphas this weekend, depending on what we see later on this afternoon. We're currently on the first of today's 2 races here at Zhejiang in China. Gabriele Tarquini leads, and he's not really pulling away, you have to say. It's only about a second and a half the gap between Tarquini and Jean Calvinet in second. There is Aurelien Panis in 10th. Attila Tashi, there he is, in 11th. And Panis closing, or is he, on James Nash in the red Seat, the Lukoil colours of the Craft Bamboo team. Indeed he is. Panis seems to be closing the gap on Nash in these closing stages of the race. This is the battle for 9th between Nash and Panis. Attila Tashi in 11th, Alain Menu in 12th, and then outside the points, Stefano Camini. Then it's the 2 Audis, the local Audis of Zhang Zhendong and Zhang Tengyi. Duncan Indy in the Icarus Motorsports Seat, currently the last of our competitors, still on track, 17th out of the 21 starters as we focus on this battle. Can Aurelien Panis pass James Nash for 9th? There is Menu in the second of the Hyundais. The leaders just starting the penultimate lap. They're on 18. And it would seem that Menu is closing the gap on Tashi. There goes Kajaya. Nash, Panis, Tashi having closed up as past Duncan Indy, or Indy is scrapping I should say, with Jack Tengyi in the 71 Audi. Let's go back to this fight. Panis now definitely closing. The gap between Panis and Nash, 6/10 officially. It looks an awful lot closer than that. So will we see a change in the bottom half of the top 10 in the closing lap and a half or so of this first race in Zhejiang? Gabriele Tarquini, a comfortable lead of nearly 2 seconds over Jean Calvinet, who is, you'd expect, not particularly bothered. The Hyundai's not scoring any points, and so Jean Calvinet, if things stay as they are, will take maximum drivers' points away from the first round here in China. Rob Huff there if he's needed, but you have to say the gap back to Gianni Morbidelli in 4th is reasonably comfortable as the leader starts the final lap. There is Oriola, there is Vervisch 6th, Colchargo 7th, 8th is Kajaya, 9th still is Nash as Panis just takes a look, as does Tashi, just breaking the toe, getting into clean air, coming down the start-finish straight, through turn 2 for the final time then, for that little scrap for 9th place. As we look at the podium places, Gianni Morbidelli in 4th, and I think too far back to do anything about the 2 Leopard Volkswagens ahead of him. Through the elevated section you can see there the change in altitude, the challenging, twisty first half of this track. a very compact 3.2 kilometre track, bordered on three sides by public roads, and that hill, the small mountain on the fourth side. And so the designers constricted by what they could do. So they've chosen to build a track of two halves, the tight, twisty first half and the much more open second half, in which our leaders now find themselves. Down to turn 16 for the final time. Watch for the lights flashing as Gabriele Tarquini comes through turn 16 for the final time to take the checkered flag. He weaves from side to side. There is the checkered flag. Jean-Carl Vernet is the man who flashes his lights. Vernet takes maximum driver's points by finishing second. Rob Huff third, Gianni Morbidelli fourth. Pepe Oriola takes the flag in fifth. Frederick Vervish is through in sixth. Roberto Colchago is seventh. David Kajaya eighth. And then the battle we were following has been resolved in the favour of James Nash, who's ninth. Aurelien Panis 10th. But Attila Tashi does score a single point for finishing in 11th because of the position of the Hyundais being unable to score points. So we thought we'd see fireworks in that first race. Despite all the predictions that it would be difficult to overtake here, Gabriele Tarquini says not at all. Not when you've got the kind of experience I have. And also you have to say that Hyundai is a bit of a weapon. To win on its TCR International Series debut, and without that drive-through penalty, who knows what Alain Menu could have done in the second car. But Gabriele Tarquini, the old master of touring car races, like he's never been away, takes the win, takes the glory, takes the top step of the podium, but of course takes no points. You can see the delight from the Hyundai Motorsport customer racing guys. Andrea Adamo there, smiling broadly. An awful lot of interest here from Korea. A lot of senior people from Hyundai have made the journey to Zhejiang to see Gabriele Tarquini take the victory by 1.6 seconds from Jean-Carl Vernet. Rob Huff finishes third, with Morbidelli, Oriola, Vervish, Colchago, Kajaya, Nash and Panis rounding off the top 10. Tashi, Menu, Comini, Zhang, Galliana, Zhang, Endy are our only finishers, with Homola, Borkovic, Lloyd and Dupont are non-finishers. So then, there's a gap, not so much a rapid turnaround between the two races here. Very happy, very relieved Jean-Carl Vernet did what he wanted to do. Thanks guys, the Leopard Racing WRT team, very quick to offer their congratulations, and just what he needed. Thank you Rob for a job well done too. A very sensible drive from both men, letting Gabriele Tarquini cleanly through, but you have to say Tarquini picked his moments, picked his overtaking spots beautifully during that race. And Gabriele Tarquini, 55 years of age, makes his return to touring cars after not that long away, but he tells us that when the call came to help develop the Hyundai, he jumped at the chance, and a car that he describes as his baby, whilst he's always very quick to praise the team, the engineers, the mechanics, and everybody involved in its development, the i30N TCR is very much Gabriele Tarquini's baby, and it wins on its first ever appearance in a TCR International Series race. And look at the smile. That means everything to those guys. And you have to wonder, because of course Gabriele and Alain qualified 14th and 13th respectively, if that's what they can do in race 1, they should be able to do something similar in race 2. So could we see a Hyundai double victory here in Zhejiang this afternoon? We'll find out a little later on this afternoon with race 2. There's just enough time for everybody to get their breath back. Congratulations from Rob Huff, like Gabriele Tarquini, a former world champion. Congratulations too from Jean-Carl Venet. And what has that done? So, single point for Tashi, 25 for Venet. The gap between the two now 26 points. Comini 41 down, Colciago 53, and Oriola 81 points down with 80 points still on offer. So Oriola officially, I would have said, if my maths is correct, Oriola cannot now do anything about the battle for the driver's title, and he will be absolutely bitterly disappointed with what happened in those two contacts within seconds of each other. On course for victory was Pepe Oriola after that stunning start, carving his way between the two Volkswagens. But let's talk to our race winner. Gabriele Tarquini is with Alfredo Filippone.
Gabriele Tarquini, what a magnificent race and what a nice win must be.
It's a dream come true. I mean, I never dreamed to be first after starting 14th. Probably it's my best race ever, but the secret was the start. I mean, I take a really good start, but I was also lucky because Alain touched another car in front of me. He make a little bit of mess, and I was 6th after the first lap. So, and after the first lap, I think that I was start thinking that I can win the race. I pushed very hard until I catch Oriola in front of me, but he had a really good pace. Also, my temperature will get a little bit too high, so I try to slow down a little bit just to cool down because we had problem with the oil temperature yesterday. And in the end, it was fantastic. I mean, and also thanks to other guys that they know that I'm transparent. They never fight me. They let me pass sometimes, and this is really a good goal.
Well done, Gabriele. It's the beginning of a great adventure.
Yeah, first race in TCR, first race for Gabriele Tarquini, but especially for a great Hyundai i30 TCR N. It's a great car.
Congratulations to the rookie then.
Good thing that was the final question, Alfredo. Never thought I'd hear Gabriele Tarquini described as a rookie somehow, but as I was saying earlier, Gabriele quick to praise the team. It's very much a team effort. Gabriele Tarquini in the Hyundai i30N TCR win the first race here in Zhejiang then. Race 2 we still have in a little under an hour's time. Please join us for that.